In today's CEO Spotlight, I sat down with Chevron Chairman and CEO, that's Mike Wirth, who explained, the balancing act between driving innovation while decreasing emissions and generating returns for shareholders. Take a listen.
The Paris Agreement, which we support, sets out a trajectory for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions over time that would put the world on a path towards net zero in the second half of this decade. Our actions to date have been very competitive with others in our industry. In fact, we're well below the industry average, and all the companies like ours are in a relatively tight band and progressing to reduce emissions. We favor actions over pledges, and so long-dated pledges where we really don't know how we'll get to the end of the road are something we've been a little bit careful about. But instead, we're taking near-term actions. We're setting targets. We've built it into our compensation system. We're investing capital to reduce emissions today, and we'll continue to do that and set tough targets, hold ourselves accountable, and be on a pathway that is in the same general direction as all the others in our industry.
How have you built it into your compensation package?
So our bonus program has four targets for reduction in greenhouse gas emissions associated with oil production, gas production, methane, and flaring. We also have targets related to renewables and offsets into our business and for investing into new technologies. All of those are part of my compensation, and I'm evaluated every year by the board of directors against those targets, and those same targets apply to most people in the entire company. So we've moved this out to our entire workforce as part of what we hold ourselves accountable to and what affects pay.
So it's sort of ownership, basically, from the base level of every single employee. What about the other stakeholders, the investor base? How much are they leaning on you for this? How have you seen your investor base sort of change with wanting to see a cleaner fossil fuel kind of a business and one that is seeing such developments in biofuel and methane and the like?
Well, it's a topic of conversation with all of our investors, and that is a change. A few years ago, this came up only from a few. This is a frequent topic, oftentimes the first topic with many of our investors now. And our message to them is we want to do things that are good for the planet and good for shareholders. And we could over-index on one or the other, and I think that's what investors test for. If we did only what was good for shareholders and we ignored the environment, that's not sustainable. And investors don't want to invest in a business they believe is not sustainable. That said, if all we did was focus on things that are environmentally progressive, and we didn't care about dividends, about shareholder returns or shareholder value, that's not really sustainable either. That will run out. And so investors test to say, do you have a balance? Are you going to respond to my financial needs and my concerns about sustainability? And so it's a very balanced discussion that we try to have, and we need to find ways to do both.
It's funny that was it Darren Woods over at Exxon sort of called it a beauty competition to a certain extent. Do you feel it is competitive amongst those in big oil in the US to try and sort of look further ahead? Or how do you try and cut out the noise and ensure that you're just doing what's right for your business?
Well, I talk to all the CEOs in the US and around the world about this. And I think everybody is trying to achieve the same things. We're trying to be part of the response to the world's concerns about this issue. People are going about it differently, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think if we were all doing the exact same things, I would worry about that. But different companies have plotted different strategies. They're investing in different technologies, and they are trying to find different solutions. I think that is a more hopeful way for us to all be working on this. The issue of climate is too large to be solved by any one company, any one industry, any one country. It is truly a global issue, and it will require partnerships and collaboration across the global economy. And so I think there's lots of room for different people to take different approaches, and those that work best, I think, will be rewarded by investors. I think companies will learn by watching what one another do, and collectively, that's how we'll make progress on this very important issue.
More from Mike Wirth all week in CEO Spotlight.